Either it's either you're walking towards your dreams or you allow your fears to restrict you. You know, some wise people said happiness is the progressive realization of an ideal goal, a dream, a destination. So that's definitely opposite from fear, staying in one place. And what stops us most time from walking towards our dreams, our goals, our desire, our cherished destination? It's the fear of failing, the fear of being looked at as a failure, other people's opinion of us, opinion that doesn't really matter. They say most people care most about a dust in their eyes than someone losing their life. Everyone's problem is personal to them, so don't concern yourself with what people think about you, what people saying about you, as far as you are working towards realizing your dream. As far as you're working towards realizing your dream, that's what matters. That's the main goal. You see, many of us are living our fears. Why? Because we become comfortable with our fears. We are more comfortable with our fears than an unknown goal, an unknown destination. We're too scared of pursuing our goal because we're scared of the unknown. We don't know if we might win or lose. But you should remember there's always two sides to it. If the fear is holding you back, like, what if you lose? Well, you should say to yourself, what if I win? If your fear is saying to you, what if you don't succeed? Then you should say, what if I succeed? And your fear is saying, what if you don't become rich? You might say, well, I am poor right now in this condition. Why shouldn't I try? So the difference between where you are and where you want to go is trying, giving it a go. The Englishman says, let's have it, let's give it a go. They say you miss 100% of the shot you don't take. If you shoot 100 times, you might hit your target 2, 3, 4, 5 times, who knows, even 50 times. But for every shot you don't take, you've lost that opportunity to even try. And most of us have been held back just from the lack of trying, the lack of fear, the lack of what people are going to say. How do I come out? How do I look to these people? What are they saying about me? And that keeps us in the same place. And maybe some of us have tried or failed on multiple occasions, and therefore we've become partners with failure now. We never want to try again. We've become submissive. There was this book I was reading by Dr. Dr. Carter G. Woodson. I don't know, you might have read it yourself. The Miseducation of the Negro. The Miseducation of the Negro. And he says, if you can determine what a man can think, that's if you can tell, if you can predict what a man can think, you never have to concern yourself with what he would do, because you already know what he can do. If you can tell how a person thinks, you can predict. That's why we have chess masters. That's why we have bosses in the companies. That's why we have people who set the plan for other people to execute it. Just like I said in my last recording, it's not about hard working. It's whose work or whose plan are you working? Whose plan are you carrying out? Whose plan are you executing? So if you can make a person feel inferior, you never have to make him or she seek inferior status, for they would seek it themselves. If you can, for they will seek it themselves. You know, but this, you see someone, they constantly just have their head down looking at the shoe, and every second they're willing to apologize, they're willing to prostrate, they're willing, because they feel inferior. So if you can make a person feel inferior, you can push that person, you can control that person. And it carries on to say, and if you can make a person feel justly an outcast, you never have to order that person to go through the back door. They will seek the back door for themselves. He would go without being told. If there is no back door, they will make one for themselves. His very nature would demand for a back door. That's it. So most people's spirits are broken through failures, through other people's manipulation, through circumstances. They continue to tell themselves, I can't do it, I'm a failure, I failed, without actually even trying. And that might be the point. Most people do things without even thinking about it, because their masters, their commanders, their whoever have put them in the constant place of inferiority. Like they need the approval to do anything. They need the approval to get married. They need the approval to live, to eat, to dress. And that happens today. So even the Bible says, be ye not conformed to this world, but be transformed. But be ye transformed, the renewing of your mind. That's it. By you trying to look yourself in the eye and saying, whatever I've been doing for the past 5-10 years has not been working, I have to change. I have to improve on myself. I have to work on myself. I have to learn new skill. I have to learn how to communicate. I have to improve my services. This all comes from the mind. This all comes from planning. This doesn't come from just walking and executing someone else's plan. This comes from thinking, ability to think. I don't know if you've read the book Think and Grow Rich. See, Think and Grow Rich. It's all about the thinking, the mental ability to see something that's not there. We all have to become self-imposed against the general belief, against the general principle out there, because most of us do some things subconsciously without actually knowing we are doing it. We buy into things without actually knowing we bought into other people's idea, without questioning it. They say you should listen, take advice, but you should reach the conclusion yourself after going over it and say, okay, yes, I've gone over this. I think it makes sense. You shouldn't just take what anyone says, be it who. You should listen, but you should reach the conclusion yourself. Every day you should ask yourself, am I doing enough to change my life? A year from now, 2-3 years from now? For everything I've done from the past 5 years, am I heading the right direction? I know I haven't gotten to where I'm going, but am I in the right direction? Every day we make decision thinking it's our own decision, not knowing we have bought into the general belief around us. The way we talk, the way we listen, the way we eat, even our accent. Most times we do things that influenced by our environment without actually knowing we're doing that. Take for instance, like a Nigerian. Most times they would naturally hiss. The hissing is making a sharp sibilant sound as if the letter of S. That's what it says in the dictionary. It's similar to face. When you speak to a Nigerian, when they displace, the first thing you hear, and even outside Nigeria, most people have come to recognize or identify Nigerians by that simple face, because usually that's the first point of call for most Nigerian without actually knowing it. So subconsciously we buy into things and we do things we think it's our idea, but we've inherited this thing without actually knowing it, because why? We don't question ourselves, we don't ask ourselves why, we don't renew ourselves, we don't transform ourselves. And most time the hardest thing for us to do is to believe we could do something, not actually going through the process of doing the thing, but believing that we could do the thing. It's actually the hardest thing, the starting point. Speaking for myself, the easiest thing I ever did was getting a degree from a prestigious university in Scotland. But the hardest thing I ever did was thinking I could do that. Was thinking I'm worthy enough to be in that position. I'm worthy enough to go through that. First, I gave myself so many excuses. I came from a poor background. English not my first accent. This is not my country. First, there was 1,000 questions why I couldn't do what I did. But the minute I started, the minute I took a step, the minute I said, yes, I'm going to go for it, that was the easiest thing I ever did. And this happens to a lot of us. We are held back. Why? Not because of what we could accomplish. They said every human being has more capacity to do more than they are currently doing. So we have that capacity. It's just our belief system. We used to being failures. We used to being in the same position. We used to looking down. We used to feeling inferior. And that accumulates telling us we are not worthy to do this. We can't do that. Why? That gives us so many questions. So just look on yourself and say, for everything I'm doing today, or everything I've done in the last 5 years, where am I heading? Where is my destination? Am I happy where I'm going? Do I need a change? If we are honest enough to start asking ourselves this question and making changes, I tell you, our lives will become better than it has ever been.